Air Force. Start with the branch everyone loves to make fun of, the Chair Force. Air Force basic military training runs about 7.5 weeks at Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland in Texas. It's the shortest boot camp in the military, and it has the lowest washout rate of any branch, roughly 7 to 8%. 9 out of 10 people who show up leave as airmen. Here's the part most people don't know. The Space Force doesn't even have its own boot camp. Guardians shift to the exact same Lackland training as the Air Force, then get extra classroom time on space and cyber. Same beds, same drill, same graduation parade. You'd think the low washout means it's easy. It's more that it's short and heavily screened. The people who do get cut here usually aren't failing the run. They're going home for an injury or for what the military calls failure to adapt, which is a polite way of saying they couldn't stop being a civilian. Navy, now the numbers start climbing. Navy boot camp is at Recruit Training Command in Great Lakes, Illinois, on the edge of a frozen lake nowhere near the ocean. It runs about 9 to 10 weeks now, after the Navy recently made it longer. Washout sits in the low teens, somewhere around 11 to 14%. The filter here is water. Before you graduate, you have to pass swim qualification, and a surprising number of people join the Navy unable to swim a single length of a pool. The final test is called Battle Stations, an overnight event on a full-size mock ship where alarms, smoke, and flooding hit you one after another for hours, while you're already exhausted. You can fail a piece of it and still make it. Fail a standard once and you usually get recycled, dropped back to an earlier group to try again. Fail enough times or quit and you're separated. The pool's where a lot of Navy dreams quietly end. Army. The Army is where this gets interesting because the Army has the newest and most honest numbers. Basic combat training is 10 weeks, split into 4 phases. Fort Jackson in South Carolina runs about half of it, with the rest spread across Fort Moore, Fort Leonard Wood, and Fort Sill. On paper, the washout looks like the Navy's, around 11%. But internal Army data from 2025 shows something sharper. Recruits who arrived fit and qualified washed out at 11.3%. Recruits who needed the Army's academic prep course, 15.3%. The fitness prep course, 16%. And recruits who needed both before they were even allowed to start, 18.7%. The less ready you show up, the more the odds turn against you, and no amount of shouting changes that math. And boot camp is only the first gate. Roughly 1 in 5 soldiers now wash out of the Army entirely within their first 2 years. Getting through basic isn't the finish line, it's the easy part. Marines. Here's the one everybody gets wrong. Marine boot camp is the longest and the hardest in the American military. 13 weeks at Parris Island or San Diego, ending in the Crucible. A 54-hour final test with almost no sleep, barely any food, and mile after mile of team problems you can only pass together. It is exactly the boot camp you picture when someone says boot camp. So it should wash out the most people. It doesn't. Marine washout lands right in the same 11 to 14% range as the Army and Navy, middle of the pack. That isn't an accident. Years ago, the Marines shifted their whole philosophy. Instead of cutting a struggling recruit, drill instructors spend more time dragging them up to the standard. And before you ever reach Parris Island, the Marines put you through months of physical prep in the delayed entry program. By the time you arrive, you're already being built to graduate. The brand is, we break you. The reality is, they screen you hard, then refuse to let you quit on yourself. Coast Guard, which leaves the branch nobody pictures when they hear the words boot camp. Coast Guard basic training is 8 weeks, 53 days at Cape May, New Jersey. It's the smallest service in the entire military, and it's widely reported to have the highest washout rate of all of them. Higher than the Army, higher than the Navy, higher even than the Marines. The number people cite is about 1 in 5. Roughly 80% graduate, so around 20% don't. I have to be straight with you here, because everyone else won't be. The Coast Guard publishes the least attrition data of any branch. That 20% is an estimate built on graduation counts and reputation, not a clean official statistic like the Air Force is. Treat it as the best number we have, not a certified one. But it makes sense. The Coast Guard takes the fewest people, screens them the hardest, and demands the most academically. The classroom standards at Cape May are brutal, and you get only 2 shots at the fitness test. When you take a tiny group and pile on physical, academic, and swim standards all at once, more of them fall out. The branch with the smallest boot camp has the biggest problem finishing it. So the ranking flips almost everything you'd assume. The hardest boot camp isn't the one that washes the most people out. If you knew was Coast Guard, subscribe.